Sorry about that. So I'm going to have to delete the last stream. I was having a computer issue and I had to end out of the stream in order to fix it. So let me just start over. As again, if you remember from before, and yes, I can see your chats. Please do put them up. I am giving this a few minutes to reconnect. I had people watching a few minutes before, and I had to suddenly end the stream. I am so sorry about that. So as I told you all that you probably would not be seeing me until after the Colorado convention, which is this weekend. As you can tell, I have freshly repinked my hair. I didn't even bother to blow dry it because I wanted to do this stream. Who is sending me a private message? You know I can't resist that. But anyway, I will resist. As I was saying, I am repeating what I did on the other stream, which again, I'm just going to have to delete because I had to hit end stream. And somebody was texting me to let me know the Ustream died. Hopefully you're back on, Mike. Stick something in comments if you are back on. Let me just send you a text that I am back on. So where I had left off was Karen Ann's rules. Karen Ann's rules for life that I often screw up myself. But the number one rule is if you're going to be a wise ass, don't be a dumbass. Man, my camera is so grainy, but this is just, my iMac camera. So we have the Colorado convention this weekend. And as we know, there's a certain group of folks who have just decided that when they didn't get their way, this is a story that's been played out all over the country, that when they didn't get their way, that they're just going to be as miserable, terrible people as they can possibly be until their little clique gets its way. And we've seen this play out. And I get it when people don't like a board. I couldn't stand the last LNC. There was a time when pretty much I couldn't stand the Colorado board. There's been good boards, there's been bad boards. I'm not here for boards. I'm not here for the LNC. I'm here for the party. And what the party doesn't need is fair weather friends. I continued to work my tail off for the party, even when there was a board that I didn't like. Even when there was a state chair who declared that it was her goal to destroy the Libertarian Party of Douglas County. Okay? I still worked my tail off. I'm going to see if I could get the chat back up. Okay, I found the button. Hopefully that works. If I start having issues again, I'll have to take it down. And hello, JJ. So, as I said, there's going to be board members you like. There's going to be board members you don't like. So, a little birdie told me something because I do not. There's a particular Colorado group which back during the time of the board I really didn't like. The chair of the party at that time said, "You cannot criticize us." And that is how the Colorado Libertarians Uncensored group got started, because even constructive criticism was not allowed in the Colorado group. I can understand that you don't allow trolling and you don't allow constant hate towards the board. That's a perfectly reasonable rule. But to say no criticism at all, that is what this group was. It's funny because now pretty much all this group is, even though it's the same people, is really tiresome, hateful, relentless criticism of the Colorado board, of which I'm not a member, by the way. And I'm not running for a board position at this convention. Hallelujah. I'm not running for a board position. So I could say what I want. I'd say what I want anyway, but I could really say what I want right now because I'm not looking for a board position. So hypocrites over in this group, which used to be no criticism, is now basically all criticism. So the board pretty much all left that group. There might be a couple board members still in it, and have started a productive group for people who actually want to get stuff done, where constructive criticism is allowed, but it's not going to be calling people Nazis and white supremacists and all the other stupid crap. But so I heard over in this group a bunch of, well, bunch would be an exaggeration, some folks who decided, they're not coming to convention. Yes, this is live, Dave. They've been proclaiming for a while they're not coming to convention, but still have a lot to say about the convention, which is fine. But check this out, Mike. You're going to laugh your ass off. If you're going to make suggestions as to how people should vote, could you at least pretend to know what the hell you're talking about? So, we're not going to use real names here. Let's just say Kelvin. So Kelvin decided he's not coming to the convention, but has a recommendation for how people should vote for board positions. And credits Alec. I'm writing down these fake names so I can remember. Credits Alec for this idea. Now, neither Kelvin nor Alec will be at the convention, but what they suggested, you're going to love this, Mike. What they suggested people should do for board positions is vote NOTA. Now, the way our board is we're on staggered terms. There's 11 people on the board and they're on staggered terms. However, if a vacancy was filled midterm by the board, that person is up for election the next convention, whether or not their term would have been up. So out of 11 board positions, 9 are up for election. And Kelvin, I keep forgetting what fake name I'm using. Kelvin is suggesting that all 9 of these positions be filled with NOTA at convention. What does he think happens if no one gets elected at convention? I am astonished that Kelvin has so much faith in the LPCO secretary and the LPCO fundraising director that Kelvin wants the 2 of them by themselves to appoint the next chair. Because he does realize, right? He wouldn't suggest that people vote NOTA across the board so that no one is elected at convention. I mean, he wouldn't suggest that if he wasn't aware of how those positions would get filled, would he? I mean, he wouldn't say something so utterly incompetent, right? Unless Kelvin just had the utmost faith in our secretary and our fundraising director to by themselves appoint the next chair rather than the convention. Those 2 should. Now, I love our fundraising director and secretary, and I actually do have pretty good confidence in them. But, silly me, I actually think the convention should elect the board. But apparently Kelvin thinks that delegates who go to convention should NOTA out the 9 seats so that Andy and Aaron would appoint the next chair. Then Andy, Aaron, and whoever that person is would appoint the next vice chair. Then Andy, Aaron, and whoever those two people are would appoint the next treasurer, and so on and so forth, because that's so much better than people getting elected at convention. I mean, I'm sure he thought this through before patting himself on the back and being so proud of this suggestion and insinuating that the current board is idiots. I mean, he wouldn't insinuate that the current board are idiots while making an utterly idiotic suggestion, would he? That's a rhetorical question. So we could save some time. Let's just nota out the 9 seats and let Aaron and Andy handle it, because that's smart. That's big-brained. How do you get to the point where you are so bitter that you don't care about the party and you just want to say dumb things to have a bunch of sycophants go without thinking through the consequences? Because here's the thing. If no one gets elected at convention, the board, who consists of the 2 people that remain who aren't up for election, get to appoint the vacancies. That's how our bylaws work. And you would hope that both Kelvin and Alec, who are former board members themselves, would know our bylaws. And I think both of these folks have been on the bylaws committee before. So Aaron and Andy, just know that even though these 2 folks pretty much just hate Mises Caucus people, they love you two because they have so much faith that they want the convention to vest all of its power in you two. It's amazing. So let's go back to my rule. If you're going to be a wise ass, don't be a dumb ass. And don't say utterly dumb things, which have you as the walking embodiment of an article by J. Kruger and D. Dunning called Unskilled and Unaware of It: How Difficulties in Recognizing One's Own Incompetence Leads to Inflated Self-Assessments. Don't be the living proof of Dunning-Kruger syndrome, okay? Can we not do that? Now that I got the main point out of the way, some people may say, yeah, but if Noda, let's just use the position of chair. If Noda gets elected as chair, anyone who was running for chair at convention would be ineligible to be appointed by the board. Our bylaws don't say that. Our bylaws say that for convention delegates, for national convention delegates. It does not say that for the board. All it says is if that note, and this isn't in our bylaws, this is in our standing rules, and we don't even have permanent standing rules right now. But in our typical convention standing rules and in the proposed convention standing rules, it says if in a run for a board position, NODA wins a majority, we'll take another ballot, and the people that ran for that position are ineligible for that next ballot. It doesn't say they are ineligible to be appointed by the board if NODA ultimately wins the day. It does not say that. And even if it did, it's in the convention rules, and those can be suspended. But it doesn't say that in our bylaws or in our standing rules. So before you go spouting off at how idiotic the people who are doing the work right now in the party are, perhaps you should know our bylaws and rules. Just saying. I'm funny like that, you know? Before I make recommendations for people and pat myself on the back for how clever I am, I at least try to make sure I know what I'm talking about. I don't always succeed. Sometimes I'm being a wise ass and turn out to be a dumbass, but you know, I kind of try not to do that. So, yes, this was a somewhat humorous episode because when I heard about that, I was like, okay, yeah, that's not a good idea. That's like shooting yourself in the foot and going, oh, look, I have another one. Yeah, just connect the dots there for a second, and then you'll see how stupid I'm saying that it was. Okay, that's it. I hope to see you all this weekend. And you want to know what? You win some, you lose some. And if the commitment and love and what you're willing to endure for this party depend upon who's on a board or who's on an LNC, you're not ready for third party politics. I've been there. I've been there multiple times. I know what it's like, and it sucks, but you still do the work if you're here for the cause of liberty and not for being the king and queen of the LPCO. You all have an awesome night. Bye-bye.